Here I am, sitting in a prison cell on my last day here. Actually, I'm quite glad to be sitting here at the end of my term. I've learned a lot from the old-timers here. I think the story that brought me to this time and place is very interesting. It all started when Sally, my wife, and I moved to a new luxurious house in a new city on the outskirts of London. There were plenty of young and promising people, just like us. It was fun socializing with each other. There were single guys and girls, but mostly it was couples, as well as those who just lived together and didn't want to get married. On weekends, someone would host parties at their place. We were all young, energetic, middle-level managers in various law firms, advertising agencies, and real estate agencies. I was an aircraft mechanic and even rose to be a chief before I found out that I was good at persuading people to spend more on a house than they needed, selling them a mortgage at a favorable rate, which, at least, was good for me. Sally was a junior sales manager at an advertising agency. We were all quite well off and life was good. We often gathered at the local wine bar on Fridays at noon to grumble about clients who didn't know they were being deceived and to pat each other on the back. One Friday, I called Sally to let her know I wouldn't be there until 3 or 4, as I had a few clueless clients to catch up with, and I'd see her there when I was done. I pulled up to the bar just after 4, and the usual crowd was there. Sally wasn't in sight, so I asked one of the girls where she was. She wasn't feeling well, and Gerald took her home. Sally and Gerald worked at the same agency, so they were somewhat friendly. And it was Gerald, not Jerry or Ja, but Gerald. The problem was that Gerald was a bit of a womanizer and a bit of a fool when it came to women. He had this attitude of, "I'm God's gift to women," and some women seemed to agree with him. We all witnessed drunken arguments between Gerald and his wife Fiona because of his flirting. Maybe it wasn't just flirting. They had been married for less than 2 years, although they had been together for several. It wasn't a match made in heaven. Sally and I thought that Gerald's gift to women had dimmed a bit with Fiona. Feeling a bit discouraged, I drove home. Gerald's car wasn't nearby, nor was Sally's. She was probably still at work or in the bar's parking lot, and Gerald would have gone home in his own car. Assuming my wife wasn't feeling well upstairs in bed, I approached the house cautiously, opened the front door, and went upstairs, hearing the sounds no married man wants to hear unless he's involved in the process. "Oh yes, deeper. Stop. We shouldn't be doing this. Stop. If Mike catches us, he'll kill us. But it feels so good." I took out my mobile phone and started recording video, carefully opened the bedroom door to see Sally lying on her back while a naked Gerald was fucking her on our bed, with Sally's legs wrapped around his back. Damn it. I recorded a few seconds of video for divorce evidence and turned off the phone. The first thing I wanted to do was to be violently torn apart. The second was to cause some damage. The second part was easy. I went to the spare room and grabbed my old cricket bat. I took out the cricket bat and approached our bedroom. They were still going at it. With a strong swing, I slammed open the door. The look on their faces was priceless. Gerald's face became even more astonished as the bat hit him on the side of his chest, sending him flying off the bed into the wall. I grabbed Sally by her long hair and threw her off the bed into the corner next to him, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" As if I don't see. "Mike, baby, it's not what it looks like." "Oh yes, it's exactly what it looks like. You're fucking that damn crap in our bed." Gerald was already standing, clutching his ribs. I grabbed him by his long blonde hair and threw him onto a chair in the bedroom, saying, "Sit here until this cricket bat touches your balls." I took out my phone, showed him the video I recorded, and said, "Stay put, or I'll send this video to your wife." I looked at my wife, cowering in the corner, waved the cricket bat in front of her face and said, "If you move, this bat will hit your pretty face and you'll look damn ugly by the time I'm done." I was visited by vile, disgusting thoughts. This idiot would fear me for the rest of his days. He would never dare come near my wife again. I went downstairs and grabbed a rope, a 5 centimeters wide black ribbon, and wire, the kind we use in airplanes to prevent nuts and bolts from coming loose. It's stainless steel about 0.5 millimeter thick, similar to cheese wire, wire threaded through a holder for slicing cheese. When I returned upstairs, Gerald was still sitting in the chair, and Sally was still crying in the corner. I instructed Sally to tie Gerald's body to the chair and secure his hands to the chair. She did everything exactly as I told her, then returned to her corner. Then I took a piece of rope, tied it to Gerald's left ankle, passed it through his thighs, tied it to the right ankle, and tightened it. His heels were pulled up on both sides of the chair, almost touching his thighs. This is the most unpleasant part. I took a piece of steel wire, wrapped it around one ankle, then ran it down his thigh, around his testicles and his tool, to his other ankle and wrapped it around the rope tied to his ankle. Now his legs are held by the wire, and if the wire snaps, he'll lose all his manhood. I took out my Swiss Army knife, opened the large blade, placed it under the wire, looked him in the eyes and said, "Do you know what will happen if I cut this rope?" Through the tears now streaming down his face, he nodded. I think he understood what he got himself into. In reality, this is too much. I wrapped the wire around the right ankle just once, so if the rope does break, it'll scare him shitless but won't cause much physical harm. I just wanted the bastard to fear for his balls and his tool. I won't gain anything by completely crushing him. Seems like some Roman said that a few centuries ago. And now, to rub salt in the wound, I instructed Sally to call Gerald's wife Fiona. She can be fiery, but I wasn't going to do this alone. I heard Sally say to Fiona, "Can you come to my house? It's very important." Through the speaker, I heard Fiona reply, "Sorry, I'm a bit busy right now." Sally insisted, "You need to come."
No, sorry, I'm busy.
I took the phone from Sally and said, "Fiona, I just caught Gerald in bed with Sally. I think you should come over." The phone went silent very quickly. Their house was about 45 meters from ours, and by the time I went downstairs, the front door nearly came off its hinges as Fiona burst in. "Where are they? Damn it!" she yelled. Not wanting to interfere, I replied, "Upstairs." Like a tornado, she stormed into our bedroom, and all she saw was Gerald tied to the chair, his ankles on either side of his thighs, and a piece of cheese wire wrapped around his manhood. She immediately started berating him. "What the hell? Not this again."
No, I pleaded.
"I told you next time I'd cut your balls off, and here we are, damn it, ready to lose your balls." I was shocked by her next actions. Fiona snatched the knife from me and slid it under the wire. "All right, you idiot, tell me about every single affair you've had since we've been together." He turned pale. She took out her mobile phone and started pacing around him, recording. He couldn't argue. It was clear he was scared. "All right, let's name names," she said, and he began confessing everything he knew. Women from work, neighbors, friends. Fiona sat on the bed with a look of bewilderment on her face, which soon turned to disgust. "These are my friends. You're sleeping with my friends." She looked at me with pleading eyes and said, "Can I have some water? This is too much." I went to the bathroom, brought her a glass of water, and handed it to her. She stood next to Gerald with a knife in her hand. She gulped down the water in one go, probably wishing it was gin or vodka. I looked at him. "And how many times with this crap?" Pointing at Sally. "This is the first time. Honestly, we were just talking about sex and got carried away." I sort of believed him about it being the first time, given the circumstances, but I wasn't sure about the rest. Standing in front of him, Fiona said, "All right, you idiot, you're hiding something. What exactly?" Her face fell. "That's not all. I think you're lying. I've been with you for so long. I know when you're lying, okay?" Then she extended the knife back towards the rope. "Tell me, you scum, or you'll become a eunuch. Actually, you'll become more than a eunuch." "Promise you won't do it if I tell," he said, looking down at his genitals. "I promise," she replied. "Fine." It was Felicity. "What? My sister? You asshole. When did this happen?" "At the wedding." "The one from last month?" Lowering his gaze, he nodded towards his clenched privates and said, "You promise not to do it?" "I promise, and now, damn it, spill it." "What wedding?" "Last month. There were only ours and Felicity's." It was clear a light bulb went off in Fiona's head. "Our wedding," he nodded, still looking down. "Weddings, plural?" He nodded. "What? Her too?" He nodded again. I'll remember this moment for the rest of my life. It all happened in slow motion. Fiona leaned in close to his face and whispered, "You lied." I lied. The knife rose and cut through the rope. Gerald's legs collapsed to the floor. I saw that the wire had embedded itself into the flesh of his thighs. This wasn't supposed to happen. I thought to myself, the wire was supposed to split. Then I saw a terrible sight. That sight will haunt me until the day I die. And the screaming was probably the loudest I'd ever heard, and I worked on jets with jet engines. A thought raced through my mind, damn, now I'll have to change the carpet and the bed. Then my trauma response training kicked in. I dashed past him into the bathroom, flipping him onto his back. I couldn't lift the injured area, but I could halt gravity. The screams stopped. He either passed out from pain or I knocked him out. I grabbed towels, returned, and applied them to the wound, shouting to Sally, "More towels and call an ambulance." I couldn't do much more than apply pressure to the wound, and that's when I noticed Fiona holding the phone to her ear. Well, now the bastards shut up. Yeah, I said what I did. There was a pause as she listened. Yes, I understand. Keep the body parts cool, not cold, not in the freezer. I have just the thing. Pinching her thumb and forefinger, she took Gerald's genitals and headed to the bathroom. Ah, a good idea. Cold water is probably the best thing we can do right now, I thought, and then heard the toilet flushing. Damn, did she just flush it down the toilet? She returned to the bedroom and told her phone conversation partner, "Done that? Now everything's fine and calm." Another pause. No, not a joke. This bastard cheated on me. He won't do it again, right? And she laughed. More towels. Now he looked very pale. The police arrived first. A young constable entered the bedroom and said, "What's going on?" And that's when his actions didn't stop, as his dinner joined the mess on my already dirty carpet. Fortunately, the paramedics were made of sterner stuff and probably had seen all of this before. "Well done, mate. Now we'll take it from here. You might have saved his life. Where are the body parts?" He asked. "I think she flushed them down the toilet." I nodded toward Fiona. "Damn," came the reply. "She must have been really furious. Having sex with your wife's sister at her own and your own wedding, that's what got her worked up." Fiona was escorted to the police car. Sally and I were asked to accompany the police to the station after Sally got dressed. The interview with the police was quite straightforward. I told them what had happened from my perspective, including the fact that the wire wasn't twisted but should have snapped. Fiona told them her story, and fortunately for me, she confessed to tightening the wire because it was starting to come loose, and she didn't want to ruin the illusion. She was just a woman. How would she know how to secure cheese wire? No one believed her, but proving it was impossible. I was sentenced to 3 years for deprivation of liberty. I lucked out with the judge. I later found out his wife was cheating on him, otherwise I might have gotten a longer sentence. Apparently, my act of saving his life helped. I ended up serving only 18 months. Charges of causing bodily harm were not pressed as I pleaded temporary insanity, discovering my wife was sleeping with one of our friends. Fiona got probation for illegal disposal of body parts or something. She was required to see a psychiatrist. Sally was the innocent party and faced no charges. I divorced Sally, which happened while I was in prison. She lost the house because she couldn't keep up with the payments without my salary, and she nearly lost her job because Gerald worked at the same place. My stay in prison was fairly easy. Medical care, TV, decent food. When people asked me why I was in prison, I told other inmates that I had cut off a guy's manhood after I caught him with his wife. A little untrue, but that's what I said. I seemed to gain respect. I walked out of prison on a bright sunny morning with a train ticket in my pocket as I had been found a job up north. I was surprised to see Sally waiting for me. Since the divorce became final, she had visited me only twice. Despite the warm day, she was dressed in a trench coat with a belt, and I had a feeling I knew where this was going, as it was one of my fantasies. Approaching her, I realized I was right. She carefully undid the belt and slowly opened the trench coat, holding it in front of her so I could see that she was naked except for stockings and a garter belt. She closed the trench coat, leaving a generous cleavage on display. As I walked up to her, she slipped her hand into mine, and we continued walking. She said, "Hello, darling, you're out now. I'll start making up for my guilt. I've booked a room at the hotel just around the corner." I eagerly awaited a few pints of beer after 18 months without it, but beer I could get any time. Sex, however, was a bit more complicated. I looked at her and said, "Lead the way, milady." As we walked, she spoke to me as if trying to say everything before we reached the hotel. "I know we're divorced, but I want to make up for my guilt. I love you, and I know I made a big mistake. I don't know what came over me. It's all my fault, and I should take all the blame. It was just a fling. It meant nothing. Can you find a way to forgive me, please? I'll prove I can be faithful. I know it won't be easy for you to trust me again, but please try." I grumbled indistinctly. "Please, just think about it," she asked, and I chuckled again. We headed to the hotel, and from the looks we received at the reception, I realized it was quite common. People leaving prison and immediately jumping into a hotel room. She swiped the card, and we entered the room. There was a bottle of gin and several bottles of tonic on the dresser. She smiled and said, "You better get undressed while I bring us something to drink." There was no subtlety in that. I enjoyed the gin, then tore off her coat and tossed it onto the bed. After wild sex, I rolled off her and said, "Thanks, I enjoyed that." I took a sip from my glass leisurely, then looked at her and asked, "What do you think? Where do we go from here?" She lay in my arms, looked into my eyes, and said, "I know it's my fault. I hurt you. I should have said no, but I got carried away, and it won't happen again. I can promise you that." "But I heard you say he was good, better than me?" "No, he wasn't as good as you. He was mediocre. I tried to boost his ego so he could perform better. He can't compare to you." I thought to myself, not anymore. "So, you risked our marriage for a little pleasure, and he wasn't even as good as me. That's very disappointing." "I know I was wrong. It was my mistake. What do I need to do to get back into your life?" "For the past 18 months since that day, I've been celibate. I don't need anyone else. I only want you. I know it won't be easy for you to forgive me. I'm not sure if you can. But I won't rise again, bitten twice. I'm not going to risk losing you again. I'm unlikely to make the same mistake twice. Can we try, please? Can we at least try?" I let her finish her little speech. When you work as a real estate agent and a manager, you become a bit of a psychologist and learn to read people by their actions and words. Looking at her, I said, "I think I've rested enough. Let's go again." We had sex again. I got off her and went to the bathroom to take a shower. When I returned, I could tell she wanted more, and she had that eager, cute, sexual look I knew so well when she wanted something. I looked at the clock and started getting dressed, making her kneel so we were eye to eye. "You're leaving?" I looked at her. She was embarrassed but very cute. Her breasts looked just as beautiful as they did 18 months ago. I could get used to having her every day and taking her as I pleased. "Yes, I need to catch the train." "But why?" I looked at her and replied, "They found me a job in a real estate agency in Merseyside while I was in prison. Right now, it's just paperwork, but I think I can make it work. I'll consider your offer." By then, I was already dressed and, reaching the door, opened it. I glanced back at her and said, "It would be easier for me to decide in your favor if you apologized." I heard her shout no as I closed the door. I lied, took the train to Lincoln, and returned to work as an aircraft mechanic. They didn't pay as much as the real estate agency, but at least the people weren't jerks. The last I heard of Fiona was that she was dating a biker, and Gerald was now called Geraldine, not Jerry, not Ja, but Geraldine.